As you said, I'm Tony Watson. I currently lead Xenocor, and we're the makers of the world's first single-use laparoscopic video platform. So I'm going to list off a couple kind of key numbers here really quickly. 20 years, 35 single-use devices, and over 5,000 procedures. That's not our company's experience yet. It's actually my experience. And the reason I bring that up, it's really relevant because with all those product launches and surgeon interactions over the years, one thing I've really noticed is the reaction to this device is greater than any of those. And many of them have been fantastic. The product's still on the market, very viable, very successful, one of which is a billion-dollar product. But the reaction universally is that the time has come, this is needed. So I'm going to tell you about it here. So our vision is to provide the surgical teams with the best visualization experience in the world. Why we lean on that word experience is important. Right now, everybody's using this clunky 1980s style equipment where it's stacks of big boxes like we used to have in our home stereos. Maybe you do if you're an audiophile still, but for the most part, people don't listen to music that way anymore. And it hasn't changed. You know, we're 38 years in since laparoscopy and minimally invasive surgery really started. And the equipment still generally looks and functions the same. Although it's wonderful, it's changed the world, there's a lot of things that never got addressed. So some of those are listed here. This isn't everything, but you have hassles, fog, managing this equipment, multiple parts, like I said, multiple cords, things like that that just don't need to be there anymore. If you invented laparoscopy today, a way to see inside the human body, there's no chance it would look the way it looks in all the ORs that many of you have been in. The costs are not just the obvious big capital costs, but you have maintenance, ongoing costs such as repairs, taking care of the equipment daily when it comes to reprocessing. And then you have safety risks, some of which are tied to things you may not have ever heard of, but OR fires happen. Actually, over 600 operating room fires in the US per year. That's just one example of a safety risk of traditional laparoscopy. And that's not so much saying anybody does anything wrong or makes bad equipment. That's not the point. The light cords in particular get very, very hot. It's just the way it works to pipe light across the room. It has to be really hot to manage all of that wasted energy going across the room instead of having it at the tip, which is what our device has. And then waste. You might think reusables are the better, greener alternative, but that image right there tells you or shows you what it takes to clean one setup for one procedure. It's a full garbage bag of trash, not to mention the water and the chemicals and the time and people involved. What we're finding, especially since COVID, it was worse right out of COVID, but even still today, the biggest bottleneck in most hospitals to doing more procedures is equipment turnover. Staffing, one of the more difficult departments to take care of. They're underpaid, overworked, and undertrained. So if you can alleviate some of that sterile processing, it actually helps the staff and the surgeon just go to the next case, treat the next patient, things like that. It can really make a difference. And then this gives you an idea of the equipment I talked about, that kind of clunky nature. It's attached to the ceiling. About half of them in the US are attached to the ceiling, so that gives you no flexibility, for one. Two, it takes up a lot of space. This little box, literally at scale, is that size. It's about 10 inches square by 3 inches high. Replaces 3/4 of that stack of equipment at no capital cost to the customer. It's a huge, huge difference. And again, like I said, if you were inventing it today, it would look something more like what we're doing than what has been done for over 30 years. We had predicate devices. We've done over 300 human uses with 2 different versions of the device. The most recent one, we had challenges with manufacturing design, and we brought all of our engineering in-house. Some was out. Now it's all in-house with people who've built single-use scopes and, for other companies in the past and really know how to do this. And so we're expecting a fresh clearance in August and to be back on the market. And we've already hit design freeze and we're going into design verification next month. But we really have a superior safety profile. We have powerful economics. We eliminate a bunch of those hassles that I mentioned. We simplify workflow and potentially reduce waste. So I didn't talk about our answer to that. I talked about the issues with reusables, but with ours, we actually have a recycling partner. So if a customer is willing, we can put everything into a bin that's provided free of charge, and we cover that cost. It gets shipped off and it gets recycled. So we do help limit the waste profile there. So the Sabre scope really is the answer. You can see here it's articulating, so it gives you every angle with one scope instead of multiple scopes. If you're familiar with laparoscopy, you'd have one for straight on for 0 degree, 30 and 45 degrees typically. And you might switch between those in a case. Now you don't have to do that, and you're not limited to that beveled kind of view of just looking to the side. You can actually look around structures, look around scar tissue. And that goes in every direction. It's very intuitive. It's just like a video game controller. As you can see there, that little gray knob, that moves just like an Xbox or PlayStation controller. Everyone who's ever picked up this prototype figures it out instantly. It's not hard to learn. It's also the highest resolution camera in any single-use endoscope on the market as well. And it plugs into all of that existing infrastructure. So if you're already committed to Stryker, Storz, Olympus, whoever it might be, and you have that equipment, but you just want to leverage what my story is, what I just shared as far as workflow and the fog-free and articulation, you just plug it in. That little box, you can move it from room to room. You could have a bunch of them. Again, we don't charge a huge capital cost for that, so it's very flexible. This gives you an example of how it sees through smoke and steam. So there's a couple of reasons for that, which I won't get into now due to time, but this gives you an idea of seeing is believing. And this is universal. Every procedure, lab, everything we've ever done, if cautery is applied or if bipolar vessel sealing is applied, which is steam, not smoke, but has a similar effect, it's like driving through a snowstorm. We're kind of like the fog lights to the high beams. You can't see in a snowstorm with high beams. All you get is that reflection back. Now this is an example of fog. So the one on the right was treated with Fred, the anti-fog little liquid, comes in a little squeeze bottle, and warmed, and that was the best image we got. I'm trying to be fair. That was literally the best one out of about 30 images I took, and that's ours on the left. So if you're getting operated on, a loved one's getting operated on, which one do you want your surgeon dealing with? Pretty obvious. I talked about the cost a little bit, but this just helps break it down. Capital equipment, especially when you're attaching these to those booms I showed and to the ceiling, you're looking at $200,000, $300,000, even $400,000 per room. That's just up front. Then you have to use it efficiently over a number of years before you then replace it. And then when you're talking about all the other pieces, the cameras, the light cords, the light bulbs, the re-sterilization, anti-fog devices, that all adds up. So the average cost per use in U.S. hospitals is over $1,000 per procedure. We already have 5 patents, and we have maybe 2 more on the way, 2 more applications in. And then we already priced this round previously and closed it. What we did, because of the redesign, we did that to make it more scalable. It wasn't so much customers didn't like the product. This was just we could make it at a higher scale and faster and with more consistency. So we finished that project. We've had another patent issued since this pricing was set. We had a contract with Premier, so we have 4,000 hospitals we're on contract with, plus all VA and DoD facilities. And then we finished the design. Like I said, we're going into verification next month. And new patent applications filed, and we have new manufacturing partners all based in the US. So everything here will be made here at home, which is where we'll be launching starting in August. We're expected to reach 2% market share by 2030, which might sound like a big number to some, might sound like a small number to some. This is a big market, 4.5 million procedures in the US. And while robotics is obviously continuing to take some of that share, straight stick laparoscopy is still around and still a very viable option, especially as robotics comes on. Because if you look at our model, having the ability to place something that doesn't take up the capital that you may want to put into a robot, it really gives you the customer and administrator some flexibility. So 2% market share by 2030 is our target. And then to give you the timing here, I mentioned some of these data points, but 510K submission coming up in July and expected to be on the market late summer, early fall. As far as leadership, I mentioned a little of my experience primarily with Medtronic, but also I do have startup experience in commercializing new devices and new brand names. Dinesh Patel there is our acting CEO as of today, and he's been a part of a number of companies. He's invested in 70 companies on about 20 boards, a number of exits to his name. And then this rounds out the rest of our leadership team here. As you can see, we have former Medtronic leadership, Smith and Nephew, people who own their own companies and funds, as well as an important one. Some of you might know of Sean Foytek. He has multiple exits. He's a serial entrepreneur and inventor. He has over 100 patents to his name in med device. So very lucky to have this group. You know, even though it's a big board for a small company, I'm lucky to have this many people involved in helping me along the way. So there's my contact information. Otherwise, check out xenocor.com and saberscope.com to find out more. Thank you.